You are sitting in the stands. The crowd around you is absolutely roaring, the air is humming with magical energy, and you are about to witness the ultimate thrill.
Oh, it really is.
Two completely opposite, fundamentally incompatible philosophies colliding in real time. We are talking about an unstoppable force meeting a highly disciplined, immovable object, all playing out in midair at blistering, terrifying speeds.
It's the ultimate test of pure strategy. I
What?
mean, when you have two teams with entirely divergent approaches to the exact same game stepping into the arena, it stops being just a physical contest. It
Right.
becomes this fascinating high-stakes psychological battle.
And that is exactly what we have lined up for you today. In this deep dive, we are bringing you a detailed recap and analysis of the absolute thriller that was the Game 3 Manaball matchup between the Azure Bears and the Golden Eagles.
What a game.
But we aren't just giving you the final score here. We've pulled together a massive stack of sources for this. We've got the official Manheim Academy Manaball rulebooks, comprehensive and highly guarded, I might add, team strategy guides, and the raw statistical game data straight from the Dome's sensors.
Which is incredible to look at. Our mission today is to put you right there in the announcer's booth. We want you to experience the live-action chaos of a sudden death overtime thriller.
Absolutely.
But more importantly, we're going to extract the tactical masterclass hidden just beneath that spectacle.
Yeah.
We want to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, using the actual data and rule sets that govern the sport.
Okay, let's unpack this. First, I need to set the scene for you, because if you haven't read the Manheim Academy rulebook recently, the physics of this game are just wild.
They really are.
Imagine a massive, transparent, magical arena known as the Dome. According to the official specs, it is exactly 210 feet long, 95 feet wide, and 30 feet high. Inside this dome, you have 7 players on each side wearing enchanted mana boots and carrying monastics, battling in full three-dimensional space.
Right, the 3D element is really what separates Manaball from any terrestrial sport. The rulebook strictly defines 3 zones of play. You have an upper layer, which is primarily used for high-risk aerial attacks. You have the semi-solid neutral plane in the middle, where the bulk of the skating, passing, and traditional playmaking happens. And then there is a lower layer, primarily utilized for evasive, subterranean-style maneuvers to dodge hits.
It is essentially 4-dimensional hockey.
Yeah.
But the thing I found most fascinating in the official rulebook is the concept of mana gravity. Can you explain how that actually works in practice? Because it seems to dictate every single strategic decision these teams make.
It absolutely does dictate everything. So the dome is enclosed by a stabilization field. And this field generates mana gravity, which gently but constantly pulls everything toward that neutral plane in the dead center. The players, their equipment, the levitating mana orb itself.
So it's always pulling you back to the middle.
Exactly. Think of it like a giant, invisible rubber band attached to your waist. If you fly up into the upper layer, you are fighting that band and you naturally drift back down. If you dive below into the lower layer, you drift back up. It creates a completely unique physics environment where kinetic energy is constantly pulling you toward the middle.
Which brings us to the teams and the incredible clash of philosophies we saw in Game 3. Looking at the team strategy guides, we have the home team, the Azure Bears.
Kings of discipline.
Exactly. They're statistically the most disciplined team in the entire league. Their literal coaching motto, printed right on page 1 of their playbook, is "Structure wins games." They rely on methodical play, absolute positional control, and utterly dominating that neutral plane where the gravity naturally wants you to be.
Yeah, the strategy guide breaks down their formation as a very balanced 2-striker, 2-center, 2-defender system. They rarely overextend vertically into the upper or lower layers.
Right.
They prefer to conserve energy and let the mana gravity do the work, wearing their opponents down through pure attrition.
Then, waiting across the dome, we have the away team, the Golden Eagles. I am looking at their raw data from the regular season, and they are the fastest, most unpredictable team on the roster.
A total nightmare to defend against.
Their playbook motto is "Overwhelm the opponent." They thrive on absolute chaos, blistering speed, and aggressive plunging dive attacks from the upper layer.
What's fascinating here is that this matchup is the classic archetype of order versus chaos. The Bears' strategy is entirely predicated on a highly structured zone defense. The Eagles play a relentless, chaotic 3-striker offensive formation.
Yeah, it's the unstoppable force.
Right. The question this game had to answer was simple. Can a rigid structure survive when 3 incredibly fast strikers are raining down on you from above?
Well, it is time to find out. I have the raw statistical play-by-play data right here in front of me, and I want to take you right into period 1. The head arbiter drops the orb at center dome, and we are underway.
Here we go.
And the data shows the Eagles instantly push the pace. They are not waiting around to feel out the defense. Jack Jeffrey controls the possession, directing traffic, while the Eagles strikers immediately launch into the upper layer, hunting for aggressive, fast transitions. They are trying to turn this into a track meet right out of the gate.
And if you look at their team strategy guide, this is entirely by design. They don't want to fight the bears on the neutral plane. They want to force the bears to look up.
Right, right.
The Eagles rely heavily on a signature play called the Eagle Dive, which leverages the physics of the upper layer beautifully.
Yes. I was reading about the Eagle Dive. It is a thing of beauty. A center, like Jack Jeffrey, will launch a long, curved aerial arc, pass high into the upper layer. Meanwhile, a striker is up there hovering, waiting for it. They catch the orb and then use the dome's mana-gravity to dive downward, accelerating into a vicious, high-speed spike shot aimed right at the goal ring.
It's devastating.
But wait, if the striker is just hovering up there in the upper layer fighting the mana-gravity, aren't they just a sitting duck for a defender to hit them?
That is a great question, and it gets to the heart of why the Eagles need so much speed. According to the physics outlined in the rulebook, hovering in the upper layer drains a player's stamina rapidly because they are constantly fighting the stabilization field.
Yeah.
They are vulnerable. But the Eagle strikers are so fast that they only hover for a fraction of a second. By the time a defender reacts, the striker has already caught the orb and is using that same stabilization field to slingshot themselves downward. They turn mana gravity from a hindrance into a kinetic weapon.
That is terrifying for a goalie to face. But the team strategy guides show that the Bears have their own signature counter strategy. It is practically the polar opposite of the Eagle Dive. It is called the Bear Spiral. How does that neutralize a kinetic weapon?
The Bear Spiral is a patient, grinding cycling maneuver. According to their playbook, the Bears centers maintain possession of the orb along the transparent arcane barriers of the dome, the actual walls of the arena. They just pass it back and forth horizontally on the neutral plane.
They are deliberately baiting the defense.
Yes.
Like keeping the ball in the corner in soccer.
Exactly like that. But with a specific physiological goal. As they rotate the orb along the glass, they slowly draw the defending players out of position.
Oh, I see.
But more importantly, if the Eagles want to intercept those passes, their fast strikers have to stay engaged. They have to fight the mana gravity to stay hovering, or they have to constantly burn energy darting back and forth. The Bear Spiral is designed to physically exhaust the opposing team. Meanwhile, the Bear strikers are shifting across the slot, and a defender sneaks up into the offensive zone to take a surprise shot from the point.
And just to make sure we have a clear mental picture, because this isn't standard ice hockey, where exactly are the slot and the point in a three-dimensional magical dome?
Great clarification. For anyone picturing a standard hockey rink, erase that. The slot in the dome is a three-dimensional cylinder of space right in front of the goal ring, spanning both the neutral and upper layers. It's the highest Angel scoring area.
Okay, got it.
And the point isn't just a spot near a painted blue line. It's a position hovering right on the upper edge of the stabilization field, giving a defender a clear, unobstructed downward angle to shoot through traffic.
Okay, that paints a perfect picture, because looking at the play-by-play for the first period, it doesn't take long for that exact Bear Spiral strategy to pay off. Midway through the first, the Bears strike.
Beautiful execution.
Freya Kroon and Rachel Aubergine are executing that cycle perfectly along the arcane barrier. The Eagles' defense gets impatient, takes the bait, and steps out of the center. An opening appears, and Deli Elfkel is hovering right in that 3D slot.
Wide open.
Elkil fires a precise snapshot straight through the traffic. It is past the Guardian. 1-0 Azure Bears.
The structure worked perfectly there. They didn't panic under the Eagles' early speed. They just initiated their cycle, let the Eagles exhaust themselves darting around, and waited for the positional mistake.
But the data shows the Eagles are incredibly lethal in transition. Just minutes later, Mac Blackwood forces a massive takeaway near the neutral plane. He looks up. Addie Lum is streaking down the center lane.
She's so fast.
Blackwood feeds her the orb. Lum slips a lightning-fast horizontal shot right past the Guardian. We are tied 1-1 at the end of the first period.
So the first period proved the Eagles could strike like lightning. They proved that even a single turnover against them is instantly deadly. But as the team skated out for the second period, the fundamental question was, how long can you sustain a lightning storm before you run out of energy?
And the raw data for the second period is wild. Let me set the scene here, because the dome absolutely explodes with energy. The Golden Eagles actually dramatically increase the pace.
Which is insane.
They are attacking the upper layer over and over again. Early in the period, Wesley Leclerc catches a quick transition pass from Jack Jeffrey, turns on the Jets on a fast break strike, and finishes it. 2-1, Golden Eagles. They take the lead. But I'm looking at the telemetry data here, and right after this goal, the Bears actually slowed down. Why would you hit the brakes when the other team is visibly speeding up and scoring on you?
It's totally counterintuitive, isn't it? The natural instinct when you're getting outskated is to try and skate faster, to match their chaotic energy so you don't get left behind. But the Bears coaching staff did the exact opposite. They told their team to slow the game down even further.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Think about it like when you are driving on the highway and someone is aggressively tailgating you, swerving around.
Oh, I hate that.
Right. The panic instinct is to speed up to get away from them. But the safest, most structurally sound move is actually to take your foot off the gas, maintain your lane, and force them to go around you. That is exactly what the Bears did. They leaned entirely into their identity. They forced the Eagles to chase them along the dome barrier by holding on to possession. They absorbed the pressure instead of reflecting it.
And the play-by-play shows how beautifully that patience pays off. The Bears completely take control of the tempo. Freya Kroon threads a gorgeous controlled pass right into the cylinder of the slot, and Chris Aaron is there for the tip-in. The game is tied 2-2.
It's a smart play.
And they aren't done. Moments later, a blocked shot bounces out, and Dial Elfkyle is in the perfect position on the neutral plane to bury the rebound. Just like that, it is 3-2 Bears. Structure is taking over.
That is system hockey at its absolute finest.
Yeah.
They didn't need flashy aerial attacks. They just needed discipline. By keeping the orb on the neutral plane, they forced the Eagles' strikers to constantly fight the gravitational pull.
Yeah, tiring them out.
Exactly. It physically drained the Eagles, leading to those slow defensive reactions on the rebound. But as we know from their strategy guide, the Eagles don't have a quit button.
They absolutely do not. Late in the second period, the Eagles refuse to let the momentum settle. Another blistering quick transition from Lum to Jeffrey creates just enough space for Mac Blackwood. Blackwood winds up and hammers a massive drive shot through the defensive traffic. It is in. Tied 3-3 as we head into the third period.
It sets up a phenomenal final period. You have two physically exhausted teams tied on the scoreboard with completely contrasting styles.
We are in the third period now, and the tension in the broadcast booth is thick enough to cut with monastic. According to the data, shot attempts plummet. It turns into a grueling defensive battle.
The ice gets heavy.
The formations tighten up. Every player knows that a single mistake right now means defeat. And the spotlight shifts directly to the Guardians.
The Guardians are essentially the goaltenders.
Yeah.
The rulebook defines their operational zone as a 10-foot Guardian circle on the neutral plane, right around the goal ring. And the Azure Bears Guardian, Ryan Ward, put on an absolute masterclass in this period.
I have to read this specific sequence from the raw data because it is a highlight reel moment.
Yeah.
The Eagles are pushing hard. Addie Lum climbs into the upper layer. She catches a high arc pass and executes a perfect eagle dive for a massive spike shot.
You rocket.
The orb is accelerating downward with that kinetic mana gravity we talked about, but Ryan Ward just rises upward from the crease, perfectly tracks the trajectory, and calmly deflects the orb just outside the goal ring. What a save. But wait, I have a question here.
Sure.
If the Eagles are the fastest team in the league and they are attacking from above, why couldn't they just bypass the Bears' defenders entirely and pass over them in the upper layer? Why did Ward's strategy work against that?
That is the brilliant part of the Bears' defensive structure. Look at the team guide for Ryan Ward. Ward plays what is known as the wall archetype. Facing 26 shots from the fastest, most chaotic team in the league, Ward didn't rely on flashy, acrobatic, diving saves.
Right.
Ward relied on perfect positional defense. By staying anchored deep in the crease, Ward forced the Eagles to shoot from bad angles. And the reason the Eagles couldn't just pass over the defenders is because of how the Bears defenders, Chris Crook and Kenny Brodnoxy, were playing the stabilization field.
What were they doing?
They weren't chasing the puck. Brodnoxy and Crook were essentially acting as anti-aircraft batteries.
Oh, wow.
They stayed planted on the neutral plane, constantly blocking the vertical passing lanes and forcing the Eagles' speedy attackers out wide toward the barriers. They took away the center of the dome. If an Eagle tried to pass over them, Crook and Brodnoxy just extended their monastics up into the mana field to tip it away.
That's incredible discipline.
Ward finished the game with 23 saves and a stellar .885 save percentage. It was incredibly calm, efficient goaltending, completely supported by a rigid defensive structure.
But look at the counterstory on the other side of the dome. The stats for the Eagles' guardian, Blake Anderson, paint a totally different picture. Anderson is facing an absolute barrage of 28 shots. And unlike Ward, Anderson is making incredible, acrobatic, point-blank stalks just to keep the Eagles in the game. But why is the workload so different if they are facing a similar number of shots?
Because the Eagles have very minimal defensive structure. They rely mostly on speed recovery. If they make a mistake, they try to outskate the problem. The Eagles' defenders were constantly chasing the Bears' cycle along the glass, which left the center cylinder, the most dangerous part of the dome, wide open.
Leaving Anderson out to dry.
Exactly. This left Anderson completely exposed to high-danger scoring chances. Anderson made 24 saves, ending with a .857 percentage. But the physical and mental toll of defending against a structured cycle without team support is immense.
And despite all those incredible saves on both ends, the horn sounds. We are tied 3-3 at the end of regulation. And according to the official Manheim rulebook, that means we are going to sudden death overtime. Next goal ends the match instantly. No time limits, just pure survival.
The ultimate pressure cooker. This is where fatigue and discipline collide.
The raw data paints such a vivid picture of this final sequence. The dome falls completely quiet. The head arbiter drops the orb for overtime. The Bears win the faceoff and immediately take control of the neutral plane, and they don't rush. The data shows they hold possession for almost 2 full minutes.
Just bleeding the clock.
They are methodically passing, rotating the orb, waiting. The Eagles are darting around, burning energy, trying to force a turnover with their speed, but the Bears are just too disciplined.
You can almost feel the Eagles getting anxious through the telemetry data. Their speed is making them overextend. They want the game to end quickly.
And there is the fatal mistake. A loose clearance from the Eagles near the dome barrier. The data shows Chris Aaron intercepts it on the neutral plane. He looks up, and Rachel Aubergine has drifted completely unmarked into the open slot right in front of the goal.
She's completely alone.
Aaron slides the orb to her. Aubergine wastes no time. She snaps it right past Blake Anderson. It hits the arcane net barrier. Game over. The Azure Bears win it 4-3 in a sudden death thriller.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this specific game-ending sequence perfectly encapsulates the fatal flaw of the Golden Eagles' entire strategy. Their pure reliance on speed and improvisation ultimately exposed their poor positional discipline.
Break that down for us based on the playbook. How did their speed cause that specific goal?
When the Eagles couldn't score immediately on the fast break, their chaotic structure left massive defensive gaps. Notice what happened on that game-winning play. It started with a loose clearance. A mistake born of rushing, of trying to play too fast when the body is tired.
Right, the fatigue setting in.
And Rachel Aubergine was standing wide open in the most dangerous part of the field because the Eagles' defenders were physically out of position. They were chasing the puck toward the barrier instead of anchoring themselves and protecting the critical scoring zones.
Meanwhile, the Bears just stuck to the script. Page 1 of the playbook structure wins games.
Precisely. The Bears' rigid, patient positional structure allowed them to simply absorb the Eagles' incredible speed. They didn't try to outstigate them. They just maintained their shape, managed their stamina against the man of gravity, and waited for the chaotic elements of the Eagles' game to cause an overextension.
And it worked.
The absolute second the Eagles slipped up and abandoned the center, the Bears executed perfectly.
It is such a brilliant strategic lesson. And when you strip away the enchanted boots and the magical stabilization fields, it really makes you think about how you approach your own high-pressure challenges. In your own life, or maybe in your work, are you the Golden Eagle? Are you relying on speed, rapid improvisation, and explosive energy to overwhelm the obstacles in front of you?
A great question.
Or are you the Azure Bear? Do you trust in structure, in patience, holding your ground and letting the chaotic elements tire themselves out before you strike?
Both philosophies clearly have immense value, and the Eagles' speed made this an incredibly tight, thrilling game. If one of those Eagle dives had connected in the third period, we might be having a very different conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
But in this matchup, when the pressure was at its absolute highest in sudden death overtime and the bodies were exhausted, the team that relied on structure and discipline took the crown.
So what does this all mean?
Well, looking at the physics outlined in the rulebook leaves us with a fascinating hypothetical to ponder. We know Manaball currently relies on those 3 vertical layers, stabilized by a mana field and strictly enclosed within physical glass barriers. The bears use those barriers to cycle the orb and exhaust the eagles. But what if the magical boundaries of the dome were ever expanded? Imagine an infinite zero-gravity arena with no walls or barriers to cycle the orb against. Would the bear's methodical, slow-paced structure still survive without those physical boundaries to lean on? Or would the eagle's pure, chaotic speed finally become truly unstoppable?
Oh, now that is a thought to chew on. A massive thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the dome and the rule books that govern it. Keep observing, keep questioning, and we will catch you next time for another deep dive.